All right, good morning, YouTube. So today's video, we are going to focus on replacing the front door speakers on a 2024 Crosstrek. This is not, as of the time of that we're publishing this is not covered anywhere. So we're gonna get into how to remove the plastic panel off of the door and how to fit these, because there is a little bit of funkiness involved. And in fact, if you look at some of the tools we have laid out here, you're probably going, what in the world? Like, for instance, why do you need a hot glue gun for a speaker? We'll get into that. This is optional. Not everything here is actually required, and I will differentiate between what is required and what isn't required. So let's go down the list here. The very first thing you're going to need, obviously, 6x9. So front door speaker is actually a 6.5. You will not find this information as of right now. You will not find this on like Crutchfield or anything. I had to dig around. So the front speakers are actually 6x9s. Currently 6.5s are in this, and the way that they made that work is they put a 6x9 plastic enclosure and then slapped a 6.5 on it. It's horrible. You're missing your mids. There's no dedicated tweeter. The magnet is pathetic. It's about that big. So get yourself a quality 6x9. In this case, I'm using audio control from Stingeroffroad. It's the Pacific Northwest, and it is a true 6x9. It has a dedicated tweeter, which is going to help with your highs, and then you're going to have a true non-paper 6x9 cone for your mid bass as well. So you're going to get a much wholesome, clearer sound, less distortion. We aren't running an amplifier to these. We're just going off of the stock head unit. Again, the 2024, they upgraded it. It's got like a 15-inch touchscreen or something crazy like that, but it does control your X mode in your off-road. It does control your AC, everything is controlled really through the head unit. So we're not going to be replacing that. And quite frankly, I kind of like it. This, however, is a major upgrade for relatively cheap. So get yourself a good quality 6x9. In the description, I actually put my Stingeroffroad code. You can get 10% off of this if you order from them directly, on top of whatever the sale price is. So video is going to focus with these. So next thing you're going to need is speaker wire. So in this case, speaker wire, really two strands, something with a positive and negative. In this case, I just got the auto drive. You can find it at Walmart. You can also get, this off of Amazon, things along. It's not that big of a deal. I would recommend at least 16 gauge, and for those of you that are not initiated, the lower the number, the thicker the wire. So the most thick I would recommend is like 12 gauge. I'm using 16. Next thing you're going to want to get is this. These go by all sorts of different names. I got this at Harbor Freight for $5. It's like nylon pry bar installer set, body trim removal set. Again, I'll drop links in the description to where you can pick this up on Amazon. It's not expensive, but the main thing is that it's plastic. It's nice and thin. You can fit it between the plastic on the door and the metal, so that we can go ahead and pry that off and get access to the speaker so we can replace it. The next thing that we're going to want to go to input, this is optional. Okay, so this is a self-adjusting wire stripper. You put your wire in here, squeeze it, and you never have that thing to where it just accidentally cuts the entire thing, and you might be left with a shorter piece of wire than you actually need. Again, optional. I use this for convenience because I got tired of overcutting wires. If you don't have this, the other thing that'll work just fine, and you're going to need this anyways, is wire stripper and crimper. So this will go ahead and crimp the connectors that we're going to use. Excuse me. And then you can strip right here. So this actually has a cutter, stripper, and a crimper. If you don't have a set of this and you don't want to run out and buy it, this will work just fine. The other thing that you're going to need on this is these guys right there. So in this particular case, again, I went to Harbor Freight. It is a 16 to 14 gauge butt connector. And this is going to connect to the OEM speaker terminal to our audio control PNW ones. So not optional, you do need this. Going down the line here, now if you're a good YouTuber, you've actually read the description. There's two methods that you can use. The old speaker ring and adapters do work, and if you're not really like mechanically inclined or any of that fun jazz, I would recommend that route. It's much easier, much cleaner. You'll have to wait a couple days for the delivery, so you can't get underway right now. In my case, I decided to actually use a Dremel or a rotary tool to cut out the speakers, and I cover that with you. But if you don't want to go that route, go ahead, look at the description, get the rings that I recommend, and then it is really just put your speaker into the ring, do the connector that it comes with, and it plugs right into the factory harness as well. If you're not going that route, I do go ahead and cover with you which wires are positive and negative. I took out the digital voltmeter because, again, there is nothing on the 2024 Crosstrek, so I had to figure that out for myself. Internet really wasn't a lot of help. Crutchfield doesn't even have a master sheet on it or any recommendations on it, so there was some testing that had to take place. But so we have our hot glue gun, and I dremeled out the actual adapters that came stock and cut around so that I can fit this in. I used the Gorilla Glue hot glue sticks, much better than like your hobby grade or anything like that, and it just helped me to create a really tight seal. The other thing that I did that you're going to need is you're going to need a drill and a really small drill bit, and you're going to need that if you use my methodology of cutting the factory brackets to install this. If you just go and get the rings that I put in the description off of Amazon, you don't need this at all. You're going to need additionally a small pair of diagonals, aka dikes, aka cutters, aka whatever you want to call it, but little guys, okay? Because you're going to need to clip the factory speaker wires so that we can make room for our connectors. So that's everything that you're going to need. Again, this video is really going to focus on the front speakers, which are 6x9s. We're trying to get rid of the distortion that comes with the factory head unit. So I have mine really mild. I think I have it set to like a 2 under sound customization on the Crosstrek. Like the lows I have set for like a +2, the mids I have set for a +4, and then the tweeters I have set for a +8. And as soon as I get around 25, 26 on the radio, I start to hear distortion, which is annoying. This will help us push past 30. So with that in mind, let's get underway. Thank you. All right, guys, so we're going to get into the door removal. So this plastic piece has to come off. Relatively easy to do. If you own a Tacoma, it's the same thing. So basically there's a little plastic cover right here. Go ahead and put your screwdriver in there, kind of dig under, and it pops like that right out. So we'll get in, there it goes, and you'll see, there it is, there's a screw. Okay, so we'll come to that in a minute. So take your plastic cover, just put it there. You don't want to lose that. Trust me. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is inside the door handle, you're going to see there is that guy, a little plastic clip. So what we're going to do is put our screwdriver, jam it in there, and then twist. So screw, unscrew, doesn't matter, but put it in there, twist. You see it lifts right up. And there's the next screw, so it'll flap down. Boop. All right. So you're going to want to unscrew that. Okay, so we've got our screws out here and here. And this is going to be the fun part and intimidate a lot of you. Especially this is brand new. So the plastic that is a retainer that we're going to pop out with our pry tool is new, and it's tight. So this can be a little intimidating for some of you, but I assure you're not going to break anything. So the way that this door works is that there's actually a lip that's going to go between the window and the door sill, and it sits in. So for that reason, we actually have to start at the bottom down here, which is what we're going to do right now. Now, I've always found in my experience, the easiest is to start at like this corner. So take your pry tool, and we're going to go ahead. Let's see if I can adjust the door a little. So you're going to want to jimmy that in between, and it is tight. It is a brand new car. So just kind of move it around until you find an area where you can get in there. And there we go. And then you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to slide it all the way in. So there it is. It's slid in. And like I said, we really want to start more towards the bottom. Let me do that adjustment right there. So we're going to go ahead and slide this. And I can see I stopped because there's a plastic piece. So go ahead, you have your pry tool. You can go and just pry and hopefully it'll pop. Let's see. There it goes. Amazing. So big, scary, intimidating. Don't worry, that's how it's designed. So we got this. Now just kind of slide your hands and you're gonna pop. And when you do this, a quick jerk will get it done. So there we go. There we go. All right, so we got our screws undone, all that other fun jazz. And now we're at the part where this is just kind of hanging on that seal that I was telling you about. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is from here, lift up. There it goes. And when you lift up, it comes cleanly. Now for the next fun part, and I'm gonna have to move the door for this one. So bear with me here. So I grabbed it here. There's a couple things we're gonna have to undo. And that's a really good view of it. So first thing that we're gonna need to undo is these. This is your handle. So you pull it, activates a little wire, opens up your door handle. Top is the blue. So blue goes on top. You just lift straight up and then rotate forward, and it's a little ball. See that? Little ball pops in there. Do the same thing with the black one that's on the bottom. Lift and rotate. Now we're stuck with this. And this is the exact same on the passenger side. And what we need to do here is, this is your power lock, your power window, your mirrors, all that fun jazz. All of this is right here. There is a little clip that you depress down and it'll free the wiring harness. So these can be tricky, especially when they're new. So there was a little thing to press down. I pressed down on it, slid right out. This other one, there we go, slid right out. Now we got our door detached. Look at that. Set it aside. Set that somewhere safe. There we go. All right, now what we're left with is our door. So this is the stock speaker that we're gonna be replacing. We're gonna get into that in a minute. But in the meantime, right now what we wanna do is go ahead and disconnect the speaker, which is right here. Now, the nice thing is, with the way we're gonna do this, there's a good and a bad thing, so prepare yourself. One, this is a 6x9 cutout. Subaru, in their infinite wisdom, decided to put like a 6.5 little waffle speaker in here with a bunch of plastic. It looks horrible. We're gonna get our Dremel rotary tool out and address that, make this all nice and clean. But in the meantime, what we're also gonna do is detach the speaker. So there's a little tab right here. Go ahead, press that in, pull this up, and it comes right out. Don't do anything with this yet, because we are going to actually reuse the factory speaker. which is kind of cool, but there's a little bit of work to get there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that you need to go ahead and undo. Go ahead and undo those 4 screws. And then we're gonna take a look at the speaker and what we need to do with the rotary tool so that we can fit the 6x9. Basically, we're gonna be cutting this part out completely. And we're gonna use it as an adapter. And we need that because this pulls it a little bit away from the door, which is gonna help the magnet clear. And the magnet clearing is important because here's your window and it goes up and down. It goes up and down inside the door. It doesn't magically disappear. So we need to make sure that we have this spacer. In addition to that, again, in their infinite knowledge, they went ahead and put the bracket so that it's much bigger than what you're gonna see on a standard 6x9. In fact, the 6x9 won't even fit. If I remove this, it will not fit in this hole. So the workaround, we're gonna Dremel this out completely. We're gonna retain our stock connectors. So this is gonna plug right back in. We'll cover that too. And then we're gonna go ahead and seal, put the new speaker on, seal it with hot Gorilla Glue. I know you're rolling your eyes, don't worry, it works out. And then we're gonna drop the screws in as well. So if you don't have glue or anything like that, it's not really required. There's a foam gasket here that we're gonna use. There's a neoprene gasket on the Stinger Off-Road audio control speakers, so it's not the end of the world. But we're gonna do this, take the stock speaker out, and then pick the video up from there. All right, we got our speaker out. Now comes the fun stuff. So, as I told you, this is a stock speaker. Look at that. Paper cone, no tweeter, and plastic surrounding it. Like, why would you have a 6x9 that's really a 6.5? I don't understand that. It just makes no sense. But anyways, conveniently, we've got a solution. So, as I was stating, you really need this part. You need a spacer ring. So if you don't do this route, order it off of Amazon, do whatever you need to do, but you're gonna need this spacing that it provides because your window actually comes all the way there. If it fit, if I tried to put this in, the magnet is gonna actually interfere with that. So you're gonna want the ring for clearance. In addition to that as well, if you look on the back side, you can see Subaru did at least put some foam or neoprene around this so that it seals it. Combined with this, it does create a semi-airtight enclosure, at least better than completely open. So we're gonna go ahead, for all sorts of reasons, reuse this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a Dremel and go ahead and just cut this entire thing out. Then we're gonna drop, I have a hot glue gun, and I know you just rolled your eyes, but it's Gorilla Glue. Creates a nice tight seal. We're gonna drop it in, then we're gonna take a drill, do a little pilot hole, and then use the screws that came with the Stinger speakers to secure it. So it's gonna be secured still by screws, but it's also gonna be tightened up even more with the hot glue just to really kind of seal the enclosure, if you will. The other thing I want to point out, this is why we're doing all this. Aside from this plastic, whatever is going on, look at this. That's the magnet, okay? Maybe you don't know anything about car audio. If you don't, too long didn't read. That's pathetic. That's really sad. My Tacoma ones look the same too. So, I mean, I know Toyota and Subaru play really well together, including engines and designs and all that fun jazz. Apparently, they also go to the same speaker factory. The replacement, I mean, it's not even close. So with the replacement, we're getting an actual full cone, no plastic, dedicated tweeter, just a much cleaner sounding speaker all in all. So let's go ahead and get now to the Dremel tool, cut this out, seal this one in, and then it's really as simple as putting this back in. We are going to reuse the Subaru speaker. We'll go ahead and just plug into here. I already did the passenger side and took out my digital voltmeter to determine which was positive and which was negative. I'm gonna list that in the description in case you haven't read it already, but in case you didn't, if you're not the reading type, light blue, which is the bottom plug, so away from the little depressy thingy right here, this is positive. Negative is the one near the little depressy thingy, or kind of middle of the plug, if you will. So you don't need to know that on the Subaru ones because it's already actually soldered and wired for you. You do need to know that for the Stinger audio control because we're going to connect right there. So again, light blue, or very bottom of the adapter away from the depressy thingy, is positive. Darker blue is negative, or in the middle of the adapter. Got it? All right, let's get this cut out, get this one put in, seal it up, and then get it installed. It's really as simple as that. All right, guys, so we got our Dremel out, and if you don't have a Dremel, it's okay. I'm going to show you here. So all this is a rotary tool. If you got a Harbor Freight, you can pick these up for super cheap. I think it's like $9.99. You can avoid the name brand. You know, just slapping that Dremel on it bumps this up to like a $50 tool or something stupid. In addition to that, I actually have a cutting wheel. Cutting wheel is diamond coated. So got that from Harbor Freight. I am not a fan of the Dremel brand cutting tools. They're usually like metal on the outside and kind of paperish on the inside here. And they always separate whenever I do any sort of trim work. These are all metal. They're super cheap at Harbor Freight. So this is what I went with. You can find all of this on Amazon. Again, I'll drop a link for relatively cheap. But if you're going to be going this route, this is what you want to do. If not, before I publish this, I'll try to find an adapter ring that maybe goes with Subaru for 6x9 and put that in the description as well. But in the meantime, if you take a look at this right here, you'll see that's that little button. We're just going to put that little button up against the wall and let it walk itself all the way and cut this out. So that being said, let's get to it. All right, so we got our plate all cut out. Now, if you sit there and you try to do this now, guess what? It doesn't move. See, and a little bit. But reason why that is on the back side, there's the webbing or whatever you want to call it. So go ahead, take your Dremel. You'll be able to see where you already cut, but go ahead and take your Dremel and just clean it up on the back side. To complete the cuts so that you can actually get this out to put the new one in. So we're going to do that right now and come back. Okay, so we got that cut out, as you can see. Right there, right? Now, the only thing that's really left remaining on this is right here at this piece, which is where your connection is. And for that, gently, carefully, as carefully as one can, considering we just Dremeled everything, just kind of do this back and forth. It'll come right out, see? So this is what we cut out. It looks a little trashy right now, but it doesn't matter, we're not keeping it. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is you have all this. There's some like debris and stuff from the cutting, and go ahead and take your hand, a cloth, whatever you want, clean all that out. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we're gonna get into how we put the new speaker in here securely. All right, so we got our bracket all nice and cleaned up here. There we go. So there's the OEM Subi bracket. And we also have, there's where the stock goes. So what we're going to want to do is turn this over, determine where the positive and negative connection is. As you can see, it's neoprene on the back. It's going to butt up with this. It's going to make a nice tight closure. So In the meantime though, as I was saying, get your positive and your negative, and we're actually going to drop this in right here, right now, and we're gonna do a little bit of a dry fit. Now, the reason that I arrived at hot glue, and I can already hear some of you perfectionists scoffing at that, but the reason that we got there is because there is a very narrow margin where you can get that screw in. So in order to do that, what I was doing initially was trying to drill, and then this would drop. So I needed a way to hold this up, and I just decided, you know, Gorilla hot glue gun will work. So here's the hot glue gun. This is the actual Gorilla brand. Again, I'll go ahead and put it in the description, and it came with the hot glue sticks as well. So I'm a big fan of Gorilla Glue. I think their products are amazing personally. I do have mine on the highest setting, and the reason for that is I need to lay a bead around the entire thing and then quickly get the speaker on before it dries. So this has been heating up for a little bit. We're just gonna do a quick test. Yep, all right. So what we're gonna do there is just as quick as we can get this around. And I ran out of glue, so I need to add another glue stick. And while I'm doing that, there it is. All right, put that one in. I can tell you from doing the other side, you're gonna go through a couple of these small glue sticks, so get them ready, get them handy, do what you need to do. So don't be stingy with this. Get a nice layer around. Nobody is going to see this. It sits behind the door. So it can be as ugly as you want it to be. It really doesn't matter. And again, we want to use the absolute highest setting because as you can see, it took me a minute to get all the way around. There's a little there still. It took me a minute to get all the way around. But this glue hasn't dried yet, which is very important because we're gonna take this, there's our speaker line, here's our speaker line. We're gonna go ahead, drop this in, and as evenly as we possibly can, go ahead, move this into position so that there's just a little bit showing on all four corners, because we're gonna drop some of those screws in that Stinger provides, and then we're gonna hold it there. And it doesn't take long, so the hot glue will dry almost immediately. Do not think that you're done with the hot glue yet, because we're gonna go around the outer edge to seal this. So there we go. I can see that it's starting to turn a little opaque. So now I'm gonna go ahead and flip this over. Still have my hot glue gun right here. And I'm gonna get another glue stick ready because these are pathetically small, just in case you're wondering, oh my God, how much hot glue does this guy go through? That much. So, and now what we're gonna do is between the foam layer on the stock bracket and the neoprene on the Stinger is we're gonna go ahead and just, again, liberally go and drop a bead in between the two. And this does help for a couple things. One, it's gonna help secure it in there. Now we're gonna use the screws, so the screws are gonna do that for us, but a little bit of peace of mind because I'm a little anal retentive. In addition to that, it's gonna create a seal around where the speaker meets the door, because if you recall, as I showed you from the earlier, Subaru already put a seal on this side, so this connects to the door. This is sealing the connection between the speaker and the bracket. So just go around, lay a nice little bead. Again, absolutely 0 points for style. Nobody cares, nobody's gonna see. The only person that cares is you. So we're going around here. And there we go, everything's nice and solid. Now, I'll be honest with you because as mentioned, I already did the other side. This was actually, surprisingly enough, this Gorilla hot glue is, I mean, like all Gorilla products, just amazing. Again, I'm a huge fan, but for me, this was enough. And I was gonna stop right there. However, because we're doing a video and because I'll be attending events and car shows, I wanted to make sure that I did it right. And I'm sure that my sponsor wants to make sure that I do it right too. So that's why we're doing that here. So we are now done with the hot glue. You can go ahead and unplug it. And now we're gonna get into kind of cleaning this up a little bit. Again, not that big of a deal. Nobody's gonna see it and nobody's gonna know that you did it. But we'll still clean this up a little and we're gonna get into the wiring. But if you've gotten this far with me and you've followed all the steps, you have successfully fabricated a little speaker enclosure. So good job, you. All right, guys, so we've got our speaker in there. I mean, literally, this is just a super glue. This is me, up and down, right? So the super glue, honestly, could be enough. If you wanted to stop there, you know, that's your decision. For me, just one step a little further, I'm gonna go ahead and use the supplied screws that Stinger provides and drop it in each corner. So when I put these in, I left it purposely so that I can drill in here, 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 and here at the innermost edge at an angle and then be able to secure everything. So I found the smallest drill bit that I had on hand and we'll cover that later, but go ahead and take your drill, take it all the way to the edge here. You're gonna wanna put it at maybe about a 30-degree angle and go in real quick. It doesn't take long. So we will go ahead, excuse me, and do that right now. So I'll do one with you and then I'm gonna stop the video, do the rest. So here we go, we're right on the edge, got plastic, and that's it, nice and easy. And then we're gonna go ahead, take our supplied screws that came with it. You're gonna need an Allen wrench. Hopefully you have some on hand because they did not supply that, unfortunately. So there's our screw, there's our hole. Put this in at an angle. Since that's a pilot hole, this should just drop right in. So we're gonna go ahead and screw that right now. Flip it around. And then this is going to be glued and screwed in completely. So it's gonna be nice and airtight at the speaker connection, and it's gonna be nice and secure as well. So go ahead, drill the rest of your holes, then put your screws in. Do not over tighten it. You just want it to hold it in, right? So there we go. It's nice and held in. I got it pretty much a little more than finger tight, but I'm not doing it too much. So do the rest, and then we're gonna actually install it back into the vehicle. At that point, we're pretty much done. We just gotta clip the speaker back in, reassemble the door, and we're good to go. So we're gonna pick up there. All right, guys, so we got our screws in. As you can see, I went to the innermost on all of these. That's the only way these speakers will work with this. Again, highly, highly, highly recommend the audio control from Stinger Off-Road 6x9s for this. You know, real cone, actual tweeter. And if you follow the steps here, it'll line up perfectly. So I want to show you on the back side really quick. So you can see here where we did our hot glue. But if you look on the back side right here, you can see there's a screw there, there's a screw there, there's a screw there, and there's actually a screw right here. So the screws are in, they're attached to the ring. We did the pre-drill, and then we used the supplied ones, and this is now, I mean, super secure. It's not going anywhere. I do off-road with my Subaru. I do off-road with my Tacoma. I run an off-road group, so we bounce around a lot. I have zero concerns now. Rough roads, any of that, any trails, I mean, just absolutely solid. Nothing's gonna happen here. Really good. So the last step that we need to do before we plug in everything and tighten everything up, we have this, right? And this is our positive and our negative to our stock speaker connections right here. So if you recall, I hooked up a digital voltmeter to figure out which was which. And as it turns out, on this one, as you're looking, there's a little notch. The bottom one away from the notch is positive, and this one is negative. So when we turn this over, this one is positive, this one is negative. On the speaker, they're the opposite. This one's positive, this one's negative. So we're gonna go ahead and put our connectors and crimp them, and we'll run this one to this one to this, and then we'll screw everything back together and we're done. So we'll cover reassembly with you guys as well, just in case you're worried. So here we go. All right, guys. So now we're gonna actually make our connection. The goal here is to still use the actual Subaru connector that's in the door to plug in to the side there. So we're gonna go ahead and flip this around. Now, earlier when I was cutting this out, I did cut the metal that went directly to the pathetic stock speaker. I've got a pair of pliers, really small guys, and I'm just gonna cut this little bit of wire that's still kind of hanging out that I didn't initially cut. Now, if you have a soldering gun, this is great. If you don't, like me, we're gonna have to get a little creative. So I mentioned in the tools that you're gonna need electrical connectors. This is them. So you need this style, okay? So what we're going to do here is we've got a little bit of speaker wire that I happen to have on hand, and we've got our self-adjusting cutters, which have a wire cutter. So we're gonna go ahead and cut it right here, and then take this and split it like that, so separate them. This is positive, white stripe. Other one doesn't have a white stripe. Whatever speaker wire you end up with, just pay attention. Positive is whatever you declare it. It's not specific. So just make sure positive to positive, negative to negative. If you get red and black, awesome. If you get something like I got here where positive is indicated with a stripe, awesome. If you got something with two different colors, just remember which one's positive. So self-adjusting. So we just put this in, and we're gonna do maybe 1/4 of an inch, and it self-adjusts, strips it nice and clean. So we're gonna do both ends on both wires, so 4 total. There we go. All right. Next thing we're gonna do is take our wire, run it into the connector that I just showed you until we see that little bit of metal peeking out. We're gonna grab our crimpers. These are blue. Conveniently, so is what I'm about to crimp it on. Crimp it. And we're gonna take the other one, put it on the other side, and do the exact same thing. So a little bit of metal peeking out right there. I don't know if you can see. Yep, you can see. So little bit just barely showing. Grab our crimpers. These are blue, little notches blue. Go here and crimp. Nice and tight. And guess what? Not going anywhere now. Now, the fun thing is on one of these ends, because the way that this is oriented, there's still solder from the stock speaker. So what I'm gonna do in this one is actually bend this up a little bit, bend them both up. And then I'm gonna take only one end. And in this case, I have a punch. Anything will work. So a small screwdriver. I'm gonna roll this up a little bit because I need a little bit more clearance. So in this case, I've got a punch, carefully putting it in, wiggle it around a little to open it up. And I do the same thing on the other side. Wiggle it around, open it up. Good. Only one, okay? So we'll go ahead and do this one real quick as well. So again, 1/4 of an inch, barely peeks out. Grab your crimpers and press. Give it a good squeeze. It ain't going nowhere. Where you going? You going nowhere. So, and then we get this. If it frays a little, go ahead and you just pinch it, twist, makes a nice little woo. So we go ahead and do that, run it through. Again, a little bit of metal peeking out on the other side, not a whole lot, but definitely there. And then crimp down again. Now we have 2 wires that aren't going anywhere. So, and again, like the other one, I'm gonna go ahead and use my punch. Screwdriver doesn't matter. And I'm just gonna go ahead, jam it in there, kind of lift up a little bit so that I get a little clearance. So you have an idea of what I'm doing here. Let me see. Does that show it? Yeah, see how one side's a little bit bigger than the other? That's all. We're just making clearance for that solder. So we'll go ahead and do the other side. If you're using a punch like me, know what you're doing so you don't stab your hand. But here we go. All right. Okay, so now we have both ends. First thing we're gonna do is go ahead and take this. Now, this is the one with the stripe, so I know this is positive. If you recall, I told you on this one, for positive and negative, positive is the bottom one or the one away from the little ridge. So we take our end that's already rolled, put it on the positive. You have to use a little bit of force to get it on there. That's just the name of the game. It is what it is. So there we go. So we got that. Then we have this side that connects to the speaker and it goes right on like that. Okay, so good solid connection there. Now we got our negative one. Negative one again is the one closest to the little ridge right there, or in the middle of it, if you will. And we got our side that we expanded. We're gonna put that on first onto the speaker location from the stock. And again, you gotta give it a little bit of oomph to get it to bite, but it is what it is. No big deal. The main thing is obviously you don't want these two touching. So when you get it on there securely and make sure that the 2 connectors are not touching. Otherwise you have no sound. So we have it in there. You'll see it's really, really close. Might even look like it's touching in the video. It's not. If you wanted to though, again, you can kind of take your punch, very carefully do this. In fact, I wouldn't even recommend a punch, but you can put it there and just thunk, and it gave it a little bit of separation, as you can see right there. And when I say very little, I mean extremely little, because if you slip, you can punch through and put a hole in the speaker, which would really ruin your day. All right, so we have the negative identified and in. Now we're gonna put the negative on the actual speaker, slide it in, and good to go there. So our speaker is assembled. We have retrofitted the stock OEM to the new 6x9 Stinger Off-Road audio control. And now the only thing left to do is really assemble everything. So we're gonna cover that with you now. All right, guys, so home stretch. We've got everything all situated here. The stock speaker goes in like this, easily identified because it's the only way that the actual plug is gonna work. So this is the orientation that it's gonna go in. There's a little lip right here that goes in first and holds the speaker in place. So if you followed my advice, you put your screws on the floorboard so you didn't lose them. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop these 4 in. And I would recommend, while you're doing this, get your first one, but don't tighten it all the way down. You kind of want to go crissy-crossy with this, just like you're putting a tire. So it's hanging out right now. So what I'm gonna do is do the opposite one. See how it shifted like that? If that was tight, you'd have a hell of a time right now. So there we go. I've got this screw nice on centered. Okay, didn't tighten that all the way. I've got this one's automatically lined up. So we're good there. Again, not tightened all the way. Then we got our last screw that goes on the back end. And this one, we will tighten all the way. And then we're gonna do the opposite order. So that's all the way tight. And we go back to the very first one. That's nice and tight. Go to the bottom one. That's nice and tight now. And then we go to this last one, and that's nice and tight. So your speaker at this point, it's installed. You're set to go. You can go ahead, and if you wanted to, you can run a test to make sure you didn't get the positives and negative backwards, or you didn't screw up any connections. I already did so on the passenger side. Again, passenger side, identical to this side. In fact, it's a little easier because the pin's just different. Other than that, it's identical. So if you watch this, you can do the other side. There's nothing tricky there. So this is nice and in. Okay, the very first thing we're gonna do is take our speaker and plug it in. Now the nice thing, and this is true with my Tacoma as well, it's impossible to plug these into the wrong ones. It really is. I mean, it's either gonna work or it's not. They can't cross. So we're gonna go ahead and reassemble the rest of this door. We set it off to the side to keep it nice and safe here. So a couple things when we're setting this up. Very first thing when you're reassembling is we want to go ahead and get these. And if you recall, the blue wire, this guy went on top. So if you look at the door hand or what this goes to, there's a lock right there. Ball goes in first, drops in like that, and then you would just go ahead and drop it right back in and then lock it into place. Bottom one, same thing, just connects. We run it and drop it. So same thing here, and drop it. Okay, push it down, make sure you get that click like what we just heard. So click, click, there you go, right? Okay, next thing we're gonna wanna do, grab these, and for those of you at home, like I said, it's impossible to screw this up. Black one, so this black one goes about midway as the very first one, and it slides right in. And then it clicks, you want that click. The white one goes right above it, same thing, slides right in, boom, it already clicked. Now to reassemble this door, what you're gonna have to do first is, if you recall, I told you, it's got a little lip right here, okay? So this is gonna go in between this metal part of the door and the window. So we're gonna take this and just kind of push a little. We don't really wanna force it. Put it at an angle, so lift out a little towards you and then push down. And it's gonna slide right in and go from the top like this. Just make sure it's pushed down. Now, in order to actually get the rest of this, it's really as simple as you're just gonna bang it. So, all right, perfect. Okay, grab your number 2 screwdriver. The 2 screws that we did at the very beginning, those are gonna go back in. Hopefully you were smart and put them on your floorboard like I suggested. All right, so we got our screws in. Last thing is this little plastic piece. So you can just pull the door handle back and it kind of just goes in there. And just press it in with your thumb. So, okay, so there you have it. You successfully put in a 6x9 into your front 2024 Crosstrek or your front in general, I guess, depending on the vehicle. But it's in there, it's secured. I already took the car out, tested it. I was able actually to get it up to 35 without noticeable distortion. So much improvement, much clearer. Very happy with the way that everything turned out. Window rolls up and down, so the spacers, like I said, they created enough clearance. The actual window is not interfering with the magnet. This is one of 4 videos that I'm putting in. So we did the front, and then I'll circle back and put a link into the description. We also cover the rears. We're going to be installing the 3.5s into the dash. There are speakers there as well. And then the big one is we are actually adding an amplifier to the stock head unit, which is going to require us getting into the pillars and removing seats and all sorts of fun jazz, but it does sound phenomenal, and it's definitely worth a look. So if you use this video, if this was helpful for you at all, please like it. And if you're going to be looking at this for reference, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And then as a reminder, I did put my code as well as the links to everything that you might need, but I did put my code in for Stinger Off-Road. It's Dakota 10, which is the name of my truck. But Dakota 10, and if you order directly from the Stinger website, you get 10% off of that order, which includes 10% off the sales price. So the only thing it's not applicable for is the high tin head unit, which doesn't matter for a Crosstrek, because why would you want to change your head unit at this point in time? There's nothing out there. So very happy with that. But again, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this helped you out. I'm sure plenty of you are going to hate in the comments because it's YouTube and that's what you do. But do bear in mind, at the time that I am actually publishing this video, there is literally nothing out for the 2024 Crosstrek covering this. So I'm sure in a couple of years this is going to be dated and somebody's going to come along thinking they're clever, saying, oh, you can just order the adapter off of Amazon, har har. Yeah, I'm sure you can, 2 years in the future. But as of right now, this is what we got and this is what we're rolling with. So hopefully it helped you out. Thanks, guys.